With major stakes on both sides of the border this past weekend, along with the first leg of the Pacing Triple Crown coming this weekend, we've got a lot to cover. Welcome to Eye on Harness Racing. This is TJ Burkett filling in for John Pavlak. We hope you enjoyed your long Labor Day weekend. One man whose labors were recognized and rewarded handsomely this weekend was trainer Jimmy Takter. I crunched the numbers, and horses trained by Takter made 23 starts this past weekend. He won 5 races, including the Metro Pace, She's a Great Lady Stakes, and divisions of the Champlain and Simcoe Stakes. Horses trained by Takter earned nearly $1.1 million this past weekend. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Blasting out Simply Business.
The $1 million Metro Pace went to post this past weekend, and Takter's Simply Business lit up the tote board, paying $43.70 with his 150-1 win over a rock and roll dance and favored Speed Again.
Simply Business off that sweet 2-hole trip, coming after a rock and roll dance now, who digs in at the rail. Here on the outside now, coming on for third is Speed Again from way back. I fought to law. Deep stretch lead down the center. Simply Business on the outside trying to reach up. Simply Business!
Simply Business didn't come from nowhere, however. He finished second in the Woodrow Wilson and is out of one of the most successful pacing families in the sport. He's by Rock and Roll Hanover out of millionaire mare Cathedra.com. In fact, he was the top-priced yearling last year when he sold for $350,000 at the Lexington Selected Sale. We caught up with Steve Stewart of Hunterton Sales Company, who consigned Simply Business last year in Lexington.
Obviously, Rock and Roll Hanover colt out of a top mare. It's if you look at all the good Rock and Roll Hanover racehorses, almost every one of them have been out of top mares, and I think that has something to do with it.
Stewart is sending a Some Beach Somewhere half-sister to Simply Business to the Lexington Selected Sale this fall. Takter sent a homebred to win the She's a Great Lady Stakes for 2-year-old filly pacers. American Jewel, an American Ideal filly owned and bred by Brittany Farms, scorched the Mohawk Oval with a world record effort of 150-2, which broke the world record equaling mile of 150-3 that she set last week in her She's a Great Lady elimination. American Jewel used a sweeping 3-wide move to win her 6th start in as many tries.
Short lead in the center for American Jewel. Economy Terror continues to march up on the outside, but at the inside, American Jewel and T-Trick, she's still undefeated, and she wins the She's a Great Lady Stakes.
Pastor Stevens set a stakes record when he won his Simcoe Stakes division for 3-year-old colt trotters in 152-4. Last year's 2-year-old colt trotter of the year was struck down by sickness earlier this year, but looks to be rounding back into form yet again.
Pastor Stephen put to a drive. Here on the outside comes Lucky Charm Hanover to his wheel. Pastor Stephen on the inside. Pastor Stephen to win the first division of the Simcoe Stakes.
The news wasn't all good for Takter this weekend. On Sunday, he was at Tioga Downs with super filly See You at Peelers, who was looking to bounce back from her first loss in 23 career starts last week in the Nadia Lobel at the Meadows. Jim Morrill Jr. got the call for the first time this year. He steered See You at Peelers across the finish line first, but was placed second after it was determined that she drifted into the path of New Album, who was placed first. Morrill drove See You at Peelers in several of her 2-year-old starts, and he comments on her second career loss with Justin Horowitz of Tioga Downs.
She just didn't feel like she had it tonight, you know what I mean? She's obviously not 100%. You know, that race last week, you know, probably, you know, took a lot out of her, and, you know, when that happens, you know, a lot of times they come back in 6 days like that, they just can't sustain it, you know.
Even though See You at Peelers was defeated, Tioga Downs Vice President Jason Settlemore had a surprise for Takter in the winner's circle. Settlemore, who is also president of the United States Harness Writers Association, was the first to tell Takter that he had been elected into the Living Hall of Fame and will be enshrined at Goshen, New York next summer. He'll be joined by 2 Communicators Corner inductees, Moira Fanning of the Hamiltonian Society and Breeders' Crown, and stalwart New England harness writer Gene Emerson. Congratulations to all on such a high honor. On Friday, Tioga's sister track, Vernon Downs, hosted their biggest night of racing on the year with the Credit Winner Open Trot and Muscle Hill Mare Trot. Action Broadway took the mare trot in 154-2.
At the flagpole, Autumn Escapade holding on, but Action Broadway gaining. Action Broadway on the outside wins.
But it was Sand Pale who stole the show with his 151-1 victory, a track record.
Here comes Sand Pale with a rush on the outside. Along the inside, Lucky Jim. Sand Pale on the outside coming on. Sand Pale will prevail.
Sand Pale has long established his dominance in Canada, having been named the nation's best 2 years running. But he's used this summer to make a sustained invasion of American stakes, having already won the Nat Ray and Hambletonian Day. Add that win to his third consecutive Maple Leaf Trot, and Sandpail has built an impressive season's resume. So good, in fact, that he was voted #1 in this week's Hambletonian Society Breeders' Crown poll. Sandpail knocked off See You at Peelers, who had held the top spot for 12 consecutive weeks. Another older warhorse making headlines is We Will See, who won the Canadian Pacing Derby Saturday night at Mohawk Racetrack. We Will See first hit the national radar when he placed second as a 34-1 long shot in last year's North America Cup, also at Mohawk. Since then, the 4-year-old out of the last crop of Western Hanover hasn't been respecting his elders. He's been a force in the older pacing ranks, having also won the Ben Franklin Pace and a U.S. Pacing Championship division. His 147-4 win in the Canadian Pacing Derby was a stakes record. Our own Ken Weingartner caught up with trainer Sam DePinto earlier this week.
I never expected this. If I could have made $300,000, $400,000 with him this year, I would have been very, very happy. But to go over the $1 million mark with him this year and beat the horses that he's beaten, it's just unbelievable. I never expected it, to be honest with you. It's just a dream come true. He didn't get over-raced. And he's grown and filled out and matured, and I think all the combination of all those factors, I think that's why this horse is racing the way he is. And he's still growing and filling out. And as hard as he's been racing all year long, he's gaining weight week in and week out. And it's amazing.
HarnessFever.com, the best way to buy and sell standardbred horses commission-free. Check out our online yearling auction October 21st through the 23rd, featuring over 70 top yearling prospects from industry-leading sires. From the web to the winner's circle, HarnessFever.com.
The Pacing Triple Crown kicks off this Saturday with a single division of the Cane Pace, now at its new home in Tioga Downs. The New York track snagged the race after a 12-year run at Freehold Raceway, where Shady Character grabbed the inaugural win in 1998.
Shady Character, Mike LaChance, they're going to try to run him down. They drive for the wire, along the inside, Dragon again, outside, Shady Character, Mike LaChance, Shady Character, he's up, he wins the K-Pace.
Roll with Joe, winner of the Meadowlands Pace, headlines the field of 9 for Saturday's contest. He leaves from post 8. We caught up with Roll with Joe's trainer, Ed Hart.
Eddie, tell me, how is Joe doing?
Joe's doing good. He had a good week. We got the cane coming up Saturday night, so he's looking good.
And what do you think about the cane and his outside post position?
Well, I don't really like it. 8-hole. I guess it's it's not horrible, but I'm a little worried. But I think he's coming into the race good.
Keep an eye out for 2 others in the field, Townslight Hanover at post 2 and Better Than Cheddar from post 7. Neither one is eligible to the Little Brown Jug, but if either of them wins, they'll have to pay a special $45,000 supplemental fee in order to keep their Triple Crown hopes alive. The last Triple Crown winner, who was no pan intended in 2003, was himself a supplemental entry. He had to pay $35,000 to race in the Messenger Stakes after winning both the Cane Pace and the Little Brown Jug. Statebreds are in the spotlight this coming weekend, with Sire Stakes finals set to go to post on both Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, check out the Ohio Super Night from Tioga Downs, where 8 divisions will race for $75,000 each. Indiana Downs will host 10 Sire Stakes finals, with 2- and 3-year-olds going for $210,000 in each division. And at Pocono Downs, 2-year-olds will face off for $200,000 per race. On Sunday, Kentucky hosts its Super Night with 8 divisions going for $250,000 each, and Scarborough Downs is hosting the main Breeders' Stakes finals for 2-year-olds, with each race going for more than $57,000. That's it for this week's edition of Iron Harness Racing. John Pavlock will be back with you next week. Until then, this is TJ Burkett. Cheers and good racing.